What's up, everybody? Welcome to the last episode of 2020. Not the last episode ever. No, not gonna do that. We're gonna give you another episode and tons more in 2021. We're so glad you guys and girls could join us for this last episode. Big cheers to all of you for joining us. We had a year, and man, tonight's episode is going to be awesome. But before we get into that, we just want to give you a quick reminder to check out our sponsors. Check out Jiu-Jitsu Soap Co. Check out Choke Aloha, and check out Giraffe Choke. We got all the links in the description below, plus some promo codes where you can get anywhere from 10 to 20% off all the gear from our sponsors, only with our promo codes. I'm going to tweak my shirt for that and do my David Letterman pen toss and all that stuff. Check out our sponsors. They're awesome. Choke Aloha has been a supporter of the podcast since day one, and we love working with companies like Jiu-Jitsu Soap Co. and Giraffe Choke, who are always down to have our back and always posting up all the positivity for the Jiu-Jitsu community. Now, before we get going, I do want to say big thank you to all of you that have joined us on the Twitch channel and the live gaming streaming. The one we did the other day with Fate versus Fate was a blast playing Warzone. Hopefully we can get Sean to join in this weekend. He missed out. We had a freaking blast. If you haven't had a chance to do so, all you got to do is follow us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Jiu-Jitsu Radio. And if you want to check out the Twitch channel, it's just twitch.tv/Katajitsu. I'm on there most of the time because Sean has to work a lot more than I do. That's why he gets paid a lot more than I do. So make sure you check it out. Don't forget to go to jiu-jitsuradio.com. And as always, follow Sean at Gorilla Boy BJJ. You can follow me at Sonder Marketing, or you can follow us both simultaneously, the podcast at Jiu-Jitsu Radio on Instagram. Now,
you were going to say we had a partner page, like a
OnlyFans. Listen. So today, we have a special guest. This young man reached out to us. He had a very unique story that he wanted to share with us, and we were really intrigued by it. So we're glad to have him on here. We try to inspire people, but we're nobodies. But this man has a very unique story that I think is actually going to touch a lot of you, and it's going to inspire even more. So I can't give any real in-depth introduction to the guy. He's just an awesome dude, and we're super thankful that he reached out and he wanted to come onto the podcast and share his story. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Pluto. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Jiu-Jitsu Radio. Today we have a special guest straight from Colorado. This man reached out to us because he had a very special story to tell us, and we're down to hear it. So without any further ado, Mike Pluto. Mike.
Hey, how's it going? Mike Pluto here.
Welcome to the podcast. So hold on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, man. Thanks for reaching out. So
yeah,
I know you spoke a little bit more to Sean than to me. And so sure. I'm just kind of curious. Give me your background. How long have you been training jiu-jitsu? Like, you know, what's your deal, bro?
So I'm 35. I've been training since September 2017. I started in Littleton, Colorado, under Kaiki Elias Black Belt. Trained there for about 3.5 years. And then once COVID hit in March of this year, holy cow, it's already the end of 2020.
Yeah, right.
I decided, because of what was going on and the rifts it was causing within people, the jiu-jitsu community, I said, you know what, I've got to bow out of this academy. So due to that, I'm actually gymless, but that's not for long. It's just that I don't know about you guys, but restrictions right now for Colorado gyms is pretty stringent. So I plan to go to a Hibero school once restrictions lift. But you know, I'm training intermittently, but I've been at it. I'm a 2-stripe blue belt. Been at it about 3.5 years, and I just love it. I mean, it's it should be essential, it should be essential, open and active, but that's kind of where I'm at. I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, that's pretty good. So we got a blue belch. We got a blue belch on deck. So you actually have a different approach to jiu-jitsu because of you have some limitations
Yes.
or some challenges. Can you kind of give us more info on that?
Sure. Yeah. I was born, I'm 35 now. I was born 3 months prematurely. So quick overview of that. I was 2.2 pounds at birth.
Oh.
I had epilepsy from birth until I was 15. And then from 15 on, I've been epilepsy less, I guess, or without seizures. And from 2008 to 2019, I've had probably 30 procedures on me correctively for various things. So when you said I have a different approach to jiu-jitsu, I started at 270 pounds with no real flexibility experience or body mobility experience with anything like jiu-jitsu. I've done taekwondo before, when I was a child or a teenager, but I mean, as we both know, that's jiu-jitsu is a whole other animal in
Right.
of itself. So does that answer your question, or
Yeah. So how much are you weighing now?
Corona, probably about 235, but my mobility and my muscle memory is a lot better. So jokes aside, I don't let the number on the scale kind of inhibit me from crushing my opponents. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
well, hold on real quick, Mike, before we move forward, what made you decide to so you were 33 when you started. I was 33 when I started.
Yeah.
As well. What made you start jiu-jitsu? What was there a
that's a long convoluted story. I'll try to be brief. So I'm originally from Southern Maine. Portland, Maine is where I went to high school. And I was working at a pub when I was in college. I was working at an Irish pub in Portland. And my friends were bartenders, and they said, yeah, man, we collect tattoos and we train jiu-jitsu. And I said, oh, cool, jiu-jitsu, man. I've always wanted to do it. So they said, yeah, we trained with this guy named Jay Jack. Like, you should check him out. I said, okay, cool. So long story short, I called Jay and I made an appointment in Portland to talk to him. Went in, he's like you and I mean, he's covered in tattoos and turns out he's Amal Easton's first black belt ever.
Yeah.
So he came up with Elliot Marshall and all those guys. And so Jay's best friend was a wheelchair bound kid with cerebral palsy that used to shit talk all the popular kids in school. And so these jocks and whatever else, cheerleaders, would just, be really hurt when he would talk shit, and Jay would just be the bouncer. So fast forward into
you got to respect that, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Like, it's just, that's one of the things, right, that we'll get into later. But like, when you're impaired, people have all these assumptions, or like, if you're a big guy, they have assumptions, or small guy, whatever. You could go on and on. But like, so anyway, I said, man, I really want to learn this, and jumped to 2017. I made friends with a guy named Joey Bozick of the We Defy Foundation, who's a triple amputee. And he says, you need to find this guy, Steve, in Littleton, Colorado. He's a hell of a guy. And so I started at 270 pounds with Steve in Littleton, and I just fell in love with it, man. I could barely walk after my first lesson. And that was just doing shrimping or Granby rolls or falls. But I just stuck with it. I said, you know what? From that story time with Jay and my experience in New England to moving to Colorado, that's, this is something I don't plan on quitting ever. So
That's
does
awesome.
that answer your question?
Yeah. So you do a lot of stuff with the We Defy Foundation?
So I'm friends with Alan Shabaro and Joey Bozick, the two guys that run that whole thing. I've gone actually to McKinney and trained with them directly. I'm not an ambassador for them. I just support what they're about. I'm not a military veteran,
Right.
but having an impairment, it's kind of given me an open door, an open invitation to veterans groups and that sort of thing. Because how do I explain this? When you have an impairment, people with different challenges, mostly physical in this case, they're like, oh man, they don't look at me and say, holy cow, like, wow, you're really messed up. They look at me and say like, what the hell happened to you? And it's kind of like this tongue in cheek, like sick sort of sense of humor, but it's an open door policy with fellow impaired individuals, whether that's from military service or birth. So,
So you say you, we haven't gone into it yet, but
yep.
you say you're an impaired jiu-jitsu practitioner. What is your
Yes.
impairment?
I have cerebral palsy. So, with being epileptic for the first 15 years of my life, I have what's called a left-sided hemiparesis. So basically the left side of my body, if you were to split me down the middle, everything from the left top to bottom is weaker. So this is my left hand. I don't know if you can see that very well,
Yeah.
but you know, it's kind of not deformed, but it just doesn't, the fingers don't articulate like a normal hand does.
Right.
So basically what that translates to in jiu-jitsu is I can push, I can pull with the whole arm, but I don't have this ability, the dexterity ability with my fingertips. And in my leg, I don't have what they call dorsiflexion. So if this is your foot, where my wrist is the ankle, I can't do this.
Mhm.
So when I shrimp and when I roll and when I even tapping like in certain rolls, I have to like slap my whole leg or my whole foot onto the mat to signify a tap, because especially in my experience, I get tied up like a pretzel quite a bit.
Right.
So does that answer your question? Do you need
Yeah,
further
no,
explanation?
yeah. Listen, if it doesn't, we'll just keep on asking questions. You're good.
Okay,
So,
cool.
When you first started jiu-jitsu,
Mhm.
what, I mean, obviously the things that you find challenging are things that people would just normally not think about. So
Right.
when you first started, what was your first like thought as far as like, oh, okay, like I got to be careful for this, I got to be careful for that. Like, what was going through your head?
Can I hang?
Right.
Honestly, like broad terms, can I hang with these guys? I mean, you look around a mat and everybody claims to have a mat full of killers, but like when you straight up, there's a difference between somebody who thinks they're a mat killer and then there's the legit brown belts, purple belts, and black belts. The difference between the people that think they're a badass and the real badasses is the real badasses are quiet, they're very helpful, they're very humorous, and they make it fun for you. Whereas the people that have the ego the ego involved, or they're full of themselves because, oh, I'm a white belt or a blue belt and I've been at it for 16 weeks, whatever. Okay, cool, yeah, whatever. But there's a double-edged sword with that. On one hand, with the new people that think they're badass, they're really not, and they're the most dangerous because they don't have control and they don't understand what they're doing. On the flip side, the real badass is the quiet professionals, I'll say, the higher belts, purples and browns and blacks. They're so much more fun because it's like a gas pedal, right? So they'll flex, they'll go faster or slower depending on what I present them.
Right.
So in that regard, I've learned to be more selective with my training partners, and I've learned to really embrace the punishment from higher belts because it's controlled. And if I get into a position where I can't tap and I have to, bam, slap my foot on the mat a couple times to signify a tap, I have the peace of mind knowing that a higher belted individual, by and large, will accommodate to that and stop immediately. Whereas the newer, somewhat inflated individuals have no idea what that is.
Right.
Does that,
Yeah,
does,
yeah. Do
okay.
you find yourself that that you kind of have to explain that to like the newer people or the people a lot? Because I know that, I mean, Sean and I have rolled with people plenty of times with different impairments, and it's never like, I've never been the kind of person to just smash somebody like randomly. And I
Sure.
also know that I'm like I treat them as like I would roll with anybody else because I know they're
Sure.
just as dangerous. But for a lot of people, they don't have that presence of mind of understanding what the situation is.
Sure.
They might not even want to roll with you. So has there been situations where you got to be like, hey, you can roll with me just like anybody else. Just look out for this.
I definitely do that as a rule of thumb, especially with new gyms or new training partners. Sometimes I find myself with intermittent training with people that are white belts, and that's legitimately there's a 4-stripe brown belt teaching, and literally there's one other brown belt, but he's working with, you know, a white belt, and the only person I have to train with is a white belt. So yes, I have to be more cognizant of saying, look, this is what's going on. But that's led me to some frustration for sure.
Yeah.
With regular training partners and things at different gyms, you know, Colorado is a small jiu-jitsu community, despite there being lots of schools. Like I describe jiu-jitsu and the community of jiu-jitsu to people that are non-practitioners as a giant family. Like once you get to know the people in your community, I may have not known XYZ individual from this camp or this camp or this camp, but at least we, you know, in 5 to 10 minutes of just speaking before we get training, we find ourselves knowing the same people. So I've kind of gotten on a tangent there, but
It's a conversation, Mike. So it doesn't. You can go off on it. We can start talking about,
it's my first podcast, right?
we can go off on underwear and comic books next thing. You never
all
know.
Right, cool. Sure. Yeah. But no, I do find myself having to explain my limitations. The nice thing is I can at least find at least one person that I don't need to explain to, because I can't tell you how many doctors and surgeons and lawyers I've rolled with in jiu-jitsu where it's like, hey, I've got this thing going on. If I get caught or if I get belly down, for example, and I get pretzeled up like this or whatever, I can't tap. So a lot of times I'll try to, finagle, I'll look like a worm and I'll finagle my head up or my mouth free enough to say tap to kind of clear the space.
You find a way to tap.
Right, exactly. If I could impart anything, I would say to people at all gyms, please, if you're an instructor or you do some privates or both, please impart the importance of various tapping methods, because that's something, back to your point of like, do you find I have to explain something? Like that's something I really need to harp on the more years I spend training, because sometimes when you slap a foot on the mat, you could be bridging left or right or whatever, or rolling. But if you don't explain that there are different methods of tapping, safety, your personal safety and physical safety is potentially at risk. And that's happened to me a few times. I broke this finger twice. I had it fused March 1st of 2019, and then March of this year, I rebroke it doing jiu-jitsu, and it was in a controlled environment with a high-level black belt, and I was doing a takedown from standing, kind of a bear hug type deal with my hands. They were kind of like this behind the back, and I was tripping with my left leg behind the right foot of my opponent, and I fell backwards. My hand hit the mat, his back hit my hand, my belly hit his belly, so on and so forth. And so injuries are just part of the game.
Yeah, you want to do your best to avoid them for sure.
Exactly. So
do you I'm trying to think of like how to ask you. Do you have
just asking
like, besides like that, like if you could sit there and tell anybody like what they should do, let's say like I'm brand new,
sure,
white belt, I come in and there is a student that might have some sort of impairment, like what would your number one piece of advice be to that new person that's going to roll with the person that's impaired?
Two things. It's going to suck for both the impaired and the unimpaired, just because this is not an art for weak people. And just don't quit. Just don't quit. Like make peace with the fact you're going to hurt. Make peace with the fact it's going to be a hard road, but the reward is just so great. I mean, I don't know what your guys' ranks are in your respective academies, or if you guys train together, but like, every time you get a stripe, um, for people who don't train, like one stripe is how many hundreds of repetitions,
Mm.
how many hundreds of bruises and aches and pains and pain have you gone through to achieve that? And that's what makes this art so wonderful. Is like there's so much effort and blood, sweat, and tears, not to be cliche, that go into this.
Do you have do you have like a specific memory of that first feeling of like, hey, I can fucking do this?
Yes, I remember a time where I was rolling. I can't remember if I was a white belt still or if I'd just been promoted to blue belt, but I remember going into it, my first fight to win tournament, not a pro, but I don't know what they do for you guys, but we had a tournament. They would have a tournament, and then after the pro fight, so they'd have a pro fight like on a Friday, and then a Saturday morning it would be like a open tournament. And I remember entering one of the first tournaments, and I was like, man, like this is legit. Like I'm going up against, a normal person. And they looked at me, and the ref. This happened to me a couple times. I've competed 2 or 3 times, but I took a long period in between. But I remember the ref looking at me and saying, like, man, like I really think this is badass that you're doing this. And I said, yeah, man, I'm not here to be an inspiration. I'm just a guy doing a jiu-jitsu. It's like, let's get after it.
Yeah.
And I just had that feeling of like, this doesn't discriminate. I don't care how big or small or strong or weak you are, like you can figure this out.
Yeah. And I know we've seen it like plenty of times. There was the guy, I want to say, Sean, does he train with Renato Tavares up in Vero? He was
the guy in the wheelchair, or the guy with one
leg, the guy that was missing
one leg,
like a Marine. And I remember sitting there and it's like, oh man, this guy's like got one leg, he's coming in. And then like, people are going to sit there and say like, well, we know which side you're going to pass on. Like wrong.
Right.
No one got past that side where he was missing the leg. And like the dude was a total beast. He like gutted it out all the way through. And even one time we had, I know you met him, Sean. We had a guy come in to excel that I want to say he was paralyzed from like the hips down, like, and I rolled with him and he was like, he started to give me the speech, like, saying like, hey, I'm like, hey, I don't even give a shit about your legs, man. Like, it's like, I get it. I'm not going to be stupid, but I'm not going to treat you any different. And like, he was super strong. I had to be super careful. Like, I don't care like what you're missing, but I like we said, it's you have to give that speech. Like it's one of those things where like you have to, that's the part of that hurt road that you have to go through that we don't have to go through.
Sure. It's funny you mentioned Renato Tavares because my buddy Michael South is a owner of a jiu-jitsu academy in Oklahoma City, and he's a black belt under Renato Tavares.
What was his name?
Michael South is his name.
Renato goes to Oklahoma all the time.
Yeah.
Because he goes to that school all the time.
Yeah, he's a
to go visit.
I remember if that's the one of the guys that owned the school that 14-year-old trained at. Because I remember that guy was a Renato Tavares black belt.
No, the 14-year-old was in Texas. He's Texas.
Yeah, but it's a black belt under one of Renato's like black belts.
So,
okay.
My buddy Marshall Troy is a brown belt under Michael South in Oklahoma City, and they've both told me stories of Renato, like how freakishly strong his pressure is, or I should rephrase that to say precise his pressure is, because he's what, $135 soaking wet, but I mean he could put a Mack truck level of pressure in the in the corner of his fingernail, so to speak, and in how precise his technique is and how freakishly painful that must be.
The guy's an absolute beast. He's what, 5'4", Sean?
Yeah.
Maybe 4. Yeah, maybe.
I'm not trying to
I think he's like 5'6", but I don't know. I don't measure people.
Renato is one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. He's like the guy that I was like, I wish I could say like, oh, that's my grandpa. You want to beat me up?
Yeah,
Talk to my grandpa.
for sure.
This dude, he's an absolute killer. One of the first like videos I ever saw, like I really started like studying jiu-jitsu. One of the first videos was an ab training like course by
Okay.
Hanato. And I still have a bookmark on my YouTube. Look it up. Dude, he's got one of the most insane ab workouts ever. He sits there with a 45-pound like disc doing ab curls this way. It's like sideways, up. Then, dude,
Right.
he's an absolute beast. I'm like, I want to be like 50 something and abs like that. Please.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
No, beast,
Yeah,
man.
that's awesome. So I wanted to touch on the We Defy stuff a little bit because, like, Joey ended up reaching out to me, and he's the guy that told me to find this guy Steve in Littleton. And Joey's a triple amputee, and he's a purple belt under Alan Shabaro, who's under Chris Hoyter. Alan's a 4th degree black belt. He's a judo black belt as well. Like, this guy looks like the Incredible Hulk in person. I mean, he's just chiseled and like spent a bunch of years in some special units in the Army, but nicest guy in the world. And I just said, you know what, heck with this. Like, I'm going to go to Oklahoma City and train. I'm going to go to Texas and train. And like, I realized quite quickly that this community of jiu-jitsu is very, very warm and welcoming for the most part. Sometimes you run into shitbags here and there, but every sport, every every sort of hobby has their shitbags. But I said to Joey after a couple of years of talking to him and telling him my stresses here and there, and I says, look, man, I want to come down. So I booked a ticket and I flew down, and I stayed at a hotel and just trained. And it was like, now I understand like why this is so addicting. And so I'm just, every time I get on a mat, man, I'm just so grateful to be in a position of we're a very small community worldwide, right? Like, I don't know what the percentages are of black belts or whatever in the whole population of the world, but like, we're doing something that's incredibly hard and with or without impairment, but it's like, it's addicting because every time you get tapped, you're like, how did that happen? I need to figure this out. So what's addicting for me with it is this problem solving. Is it gives me sort of calm in the suck of it, if that makes sense. Like, the harder it gets, the more fun I have, because I'm focusing on solving the problem, not acknowledging the stress I have in my life or the past hardships I've had physically or emotionally or what have you.
It's the great escape, because when you're fighting for your life,
right,
nothing else matters.
Right.
And that's what you're, and I explain to my guys, I always tell them, I said, look, I say, if you start your day with jiu-jitsu, the rest of the day is easy.
Right.
I said, because you literally just fought for your life for 15 minutes with 3 different dudes.
Sure.
And they go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, because the fact of the matter is, while somebody has a choke on you, and will let it go, your subconscious does not understand that. It only understands, I am dying right now. I need to find a way out. So that if you do that every morning, or you do that in the mornings, the next thing you know, it's just like you become used with all jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter. You become used to that fear of dying.
Sure.
So when you have that in your life, waking up every day, especially after morning jiu-jitsu, doing the rest of your day, the rest of the day is easy.
Sure.
Dude, I was almost dead 2 hours ago. A guy had me in a bow and arrow. I was almost dead. You think it's gonna matter if I miscount, my money at the bank, or if I
We had you in the bow and arrow, though. That's what I want to know.
It's nobody got me, dude. Look at my neck. It's
no. I've seen you get caught in a bow and arrow. I'm trying to find out who caught you in a bow and arrow.
Nobody caught me in a bow and arrow. Nobody.
So
I haven't been caught in a bow and arrow in a long time.
So
and by the way, the bow and arrow that you have a photo of was a posed photo, and you know it.
No. You posed, and they put in the bow and arrow, and then you let them get it way too deep.
Well, no, because we wanted the picture.
Let me ask you a question.
What?
Was the bow and arrow in?
What's that?
Was the bow and arrow
Yes,
in?
I gave him the position.
Okay. It was in.
What?
Did you tap?
No.
Yes, you tapped.
No, I made a face. And your mother said I'm ugly. Tap.
He tap. I'm letting you know right now for the record, when you see that Photoshop, you know what? I'm going to find it. I'm going to post it. So Mike,
We should make it the cover. We can put Mike's picture and that on the cover.
I'll just Photoshop Mike's face on top of the person that's bow and arrowing you. So let me ask you, Mike. So you said you were having some issues, and now you're gymless until I guess coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
So what did you take from? Because I mean, I've been in the same situation where I had to leave a gym, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the I'm here like forever. This is it. This is my gym. Like I got to deal with the bullshit. Like, what are you taking away from this experience of now going into the new gym that this is what I want. This is what I don't want.
Okay. To try to answer this question.
You can be PC about it. I know that some people might get their feelings.
Sure.
You get it.
So one of the things I'm guarded about is the instructor's attitudes. And so what I mean by that is, if you're having shit go on in your personal life, don't bring that to work. Meaning, don't bring that to the mat. Don't bring that into the sanctuary that is the school. I'm intentionally not telling you where I trained and who I trained with for privacy's sake. But one of the things I'm especially cautious of with going to new school is credentialing. I know we talk a lot about in jiu-jitsu about lineage and this and that, but what sells it for me is, personally, I don't care who you train under. You could tell me you train under, like Hoyler or Jean-Jacques or whoever else. But what really counts the most for me is, how do you treat me? Like, and I'm going to put myself a little bit out of the realm here. Like, I'm going to single myself out as being an impaired individual for this explanation.
Yeah.
I'm not your average kid. Like, okay, I'm 35, but I feel like a kid. I'm not your average man that's coming in like with a sports background or a boxing champion, MMA champion background, whatever. Like, I'm just a guy. I've got a funny arm. I like tattoos. I like guns. Like, I like training. What methods of training, or what methods of approach to training, I should say, do you bring to me to get the most out of me as a person with an impairment? Now, what I mean by that is, I want my jiu-jitsu to work against anyone and everywhere. I've got friends who have are missing a leg, and they do the sport jiu-jitsu or the para jiu-jitsu competition, and I love and respect that. But my buddy Joey with We Defy, he's always said to me, like from day one when I met him, he says, your jiu-jitsu should work against anyone. It doesn't matter if you have a funny arm, a funny leg, no arm, no leg, whatever. Like, that's the approach I take to jiu-jitsu is my jiu-jitsu should go up against you, should go up against Sean, Helson, Hoyler, I don't care, like Jean-Jacques, whoever else. Like, my jiu-jitsu should be malleable or adaptable to any opponent, big or small, grandmaster or not,
Do you ever go back, like thinking in your head, like maybe you were younger, like did you have like struggles of trying to deal with like your impairment and like just having to like,
oh yeah, man, oh yeah,
like what was going on through your head? Because it's one of those things that to me, it's like I always look at it as like we all live in a separate universe. What I deal with is completely different than what Sean deals with, than what you deal with and stuff like that. So to give us an insight like of your mental, emotional struggles that you had to deal with that led you up to get into jiu-jitsu.
Well, I can tell you that 10 years ago, I was 25 years old. I'd first moved out of my parents' house. I was in a low point in my life. I realized, like, wow, I've been a pretty weak individual for a long time. And to go further back, growing up, like, I didn't have self-confidence. I didn't have, I didn't date a lot in college or high school, or I didn't have the prom queen or any of that stuff. Like, it messes with you because kids are cruel. Yes, it's a learned thing. they're, they think it's funny, but it messes you up. And so from like, I'd say like 12, 15 years old to, up until I was 25 years old, like that whole gap of time, I'm getting surgeries, I'm being bullied, I'm having no self-esteem, but like, I don't know what it was. I grew up watching like the Karate Kid and the Ninja Turtles and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, this stuff is so cool. Like, Jocko and Joe Rogan have said on, that jujitsu is a superpower. And so for whatever reason, that type of mentality of like superheroes and strength and empowerment of self has always stuck with me. And then finally, when I grew up emotionally, mentally, and got away from all the bullying and stuff, and decided like that doesn't need to define me. I mean, those are stages of your life. They don't need to define you. And then I just decided like, let's get healthy, let's lose some weight. And I started first with physical training. And then when I moved to Colorado in 2012, I ended up picking up jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome, man. I mean,
Thanks.
The good news is, I think if you were to run into those people today,
Sure.
They've matured, and I'm sure some of them would offer apologies. But it is weird how kids, in order to fit in, will break others down in order to avoid the eye of scrutiny on themselves.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard.
What's that?
I was bullied bad. Like, I mean, up until even like halfway through high school. I mean, I was the foreign kid, like all in middle school, switching schools and stuff. I would get in fights all the time. Like, I remember I was taking ESOL classes and stuff, and like the teachers would talk to me like I was like mentally handicapped or something. Like,
sure.
No, I'm still trying to learn the language. Like, but like, I totally get it. I mean, it's a totally different perspective. I can't even remotely compare to that. But I mean, the bullying is one of those things that's kind of crazy. And what's funny is with the, like, doing more of the streaming that I've been doing with like Twitch and stuff like that, and getting to talk to more people, like you hear all the chatter and stuff that's going on. And especially like in the Twitch community, man, the gamers now, there's always toxic people, but I've met so many just positive, like helpful, like supportive people. Like, then I've met maybe in the last like 10 years, in the last 6 months of like streaming and stuff, I've met more positive and supportive people in gaming than easy, like most of my life. It's pretty crazy to see. So like, I think there is a shift of some people are getting better, and kids are going to be kids and going to be mean. But I think it's one of those things that the light is kind of shining more and more, and a lot of kids are maturing a lot faster where they're like seeing that. So like, it's pretty cool to see.
Well, and it's no longer cool. Kids are stopping that when they see it now.
Yeah,
sure.
Like, and that's one of those good things about the advancement of our, of our society, is those kids are actually starting to, or kids are actually empathize with people nowadays.
Sure.
Have you ever had like to have like a conversation, like maybe like a younger like kid or something that might also have like palsy or like some other impairment, where you had to kind of give them that like speech?
Yeah. So one of the traditions I have is every time I get to go home to Portland, Maine, I do a private lesson with Jay Jack. And just because, if you guys know Amal Easton, I mean, he's owner and founder of like one of the biggest, Jiu-Jitsu academy chains in the state of Colorado. And like, to know that Jay is from that lineage, and like, I didn't know who Amal was when he first told me and I first met him. But anyway, long story short, I'd gone back in March, right when coronavirus had hit. And my tradition is to, every time I go home, I go try to do a private lesson with Jay. And he's got this very unique way of teaching where it doesn't matter how many years of jiu-jitsu you have, like, you're always focusing on new sets of minute details that maybe the approach I've had at home here in Colorado, for example, was missed when I did it. So like, every time I go work with him, I'm like, he's got this very unique way of teaching you some minute details to a specific set of technique that you just, it sticks with you. And you're like, man, I forget how I did that. Like, and it really like humbles you to that level of like, wow, this is really complex. And this seems simple enough, but then it has this way of like slowly eating at your brain and being like, okay, I've got to really rep this and rep it and rep it. And like, it sticks with you.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, like, but have you had to like?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot. I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this kid. He says, "Hey man, like you've got palsy, right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Jay." Jay says, "Yeah, Mike, you've got palsy." I said, "Yeah, I got cerebral palsy." He says, "Hey, we got a white belt. His name is." So Jay gives funny nicknames to his kids, and one of the guys he gave a nickname to was named Wobbles. His name is Ethan. Well, it turns out Ethan is from Northern Maine originally, and I'm from Northern Maine originally. I went to high school in Southern Maine. Well, Ethan is from a town like 50 to 80 miles from my hometown in far northern Maine, like up on the Canadian border. And he's a white belt and he's got cerebral palsy. So I'm getting changed before my private with Jay. And he looks at me and he's like, he's pointing to my arm, I'm pointing to his, and we have the same exact impairment set, but flipped.
Right.
So it's his right arm and his right leg and his right side that's all, funny. And one of the pieces of information I gave to Ethan was like, he says, "Hey man," he asked me that question, "what piece of advice would you give somebody with impairment?" I said, "I can't give you a piece of advice, Ethan, but I can show you." And so I just started rolling with him and I would just point out different things like learning to post on your forearm. Because I can't, with my left arm, I can't plant and do like a straight hand plant with my hand, because my hand is like this. I wear a brace that straightens out my wrist, but
Right.
I don't have the strength or to the explosive power to like pop up on my hand
Right.
like you traditionally would. So I typically just try to go on the elbow or the forearm and then shrimp out usually.
Right.
So does that?
Yeah. No. So
Okay.
like, listen, you can share this with them. Wobbles. Listen to me. Keep fucking doing jujitsu, right?
Yeah, I told him not to quit.
And if you got any issues with someone's giving you shit, you got two Matin forces here that'll come by and handle business. So you just let me know. But this one goes out to Wobbles. Keep doing that shit, all right? Don't quit.
Yeah, man, it's so funny because they were telling me like I'm talking like black belts and brown belts at this school, at Jay's school. They were like, I've never seen a tougher SOB in my life. Like this kid like got choked out, rear naked choked like 5 times in a row, completely out, asleep and everything, and just okay, what's next? I'm like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that's the kind of mentality you need when you're an arm down from everyone else. It's just like you have a shit talking attitude and like you just kind of get sort of sick twisted with it
Yeah,
because it
that's kind of like the kind of mentality we have. I think it's one of those things that people don't get about that gym culture.
yeah,
If it was like a regular, like
sure.
if it was like a workplace or something like that, and you
Mhm.
said, "Oh, that's Wobbles," like, man, you guys are fucked up. Like that's the kind of nickname like you give someone.
Yep.
But well, like in the jujitsu gym or like an MMA gym, like, damn, that means you're part of the family. If you
Sure.
get that, it's like, no, you're part of the family. You're good to go.
Right. Yeah.
So my question to you is, when you found out like of guys like John Jock Machado that like he has his own impairment and he was like ADCC champ, what was like your first like just kind of chain of thought the second you found that out?
I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. If that fucking guy who's one of the biggest inspirations for me I've ever been blessed to like discover, like I can do this. And I've Instagrammed with him directly a few times, and unfortunately because of COVID or whatever, like I don't feel safe going to California right now. But that's one of the things I'm really trying to find with my own community here is like, how do I move like that? What adjustments do I need to make so I protect my hand, my fingers, and my arm, but I can still do everything else that he can. And I like basically just need to save up and like do a private with him to really get the nitty gritty. But to sort of expound on what you said, like I can do this. I can do this. I found out my buddy Jeffrey Al, who's a black belt at Alpine Jiu-Jitsu in San Diego
Yeah.
or near San Diego. guys, similar situation. They both had ambiotic band syndrome, both Jean-Jacques and Jeff, and they're lights out. They're lights out, man. Like, and they've said this on the podcast. I don't know if you've listened to Jean-Jacques' podcast, but like people say, "Oh man, like that sucks. He's missing fingers." Like imagine if he had his hand, or imagine if he had his fingers. And they're like, "Oh hell no! Imagine if he didn't. Imagine if he didn't, because then that's a whole level of refinement, of expertise, of deadliness that is just a result of what you have or what you don't have."
Yeah, well, he's talked about it, and I think a lot of people have analyzed it too. Is that like that's actually was his biggest benefit going into like competition, is that he changed his jiu-jitsu to or modified it to work with, you know, his challenges. And like it would, dude, if he gets you in a rear naked choke, or if he's got like even close, like a little bit of a grip on the gi, like you're not going to break it. Like it's there, like there's nothing there to get rid of. So you're stuck, and that edge is going to hurt. That edge is going to hurt, and he's not going to get in trouble because that's there. It's not his hand. He's not going to get in trouble for it.
I will say, for my own unique journey, protecting my digits has been a real difficulty. I wear like a carpal tunnel splint or whatever, you know, to straighten everything out. But the problem is everything for my fingers is open and exposed. And so like just a simple controlled fall with a black belt, I broke, you know, I broke the upper corner of my knuckle. And then the year before, I broke, like I hyperextended everything. So basically my digit went like, it went down and then boom. And so I had this whole top of my finger fused. And so,
I know that one I can definitely share the experience with, because I snapped this one as a white belt. So basically I was holding on to pant leg grip against like another white belt, and he like kicked out way too hard when we were just drilling. And you can ask Sean, you can ask Fernando. So from here,
little Fernando,
no, the Fernando from Wellington.
Oh, okay.
He so from here, like my finger went straight that way. So it was like, it just snapped like a carrot. Yeah, it just went completely sideways. So this was all the way like this way inside my hand. And I learned a long time ago, I've had way too many injuries. I learned a long time ago that last second that you look at an injury is the last second you're going to have before the pain kicks in. Because if you snap it, whatever, like you'll feel something, but your brain doesn't really click it in. And I have a high pain tolerance already. So I looked at it, it was like, oh shit. And I popped it back in.
Oh man.
So I put it back in and I rolled the rest of the night. I had to be careful. I go to find out, and I found the x-ray the other day on my phone. This snapped like a V. So it was like this, and the bone was snapped like that, and I had to set it in place. So I actually couldn't use this. Like I can't even close this finger all the way.
Yeah.
It was stuck like this for about a year. And I play guitar, so that's like the worst. Like I went to college for jazz guitar, so I've snapped. Let's see, I broke both pinkies. I snapped this one. Like
jiu-jitsu is just hard on digits.
Yeah,
it's just the way, like, you know, I used to have nice looking hands, but now
let's
like no, I mean, but like look at my knuckles. Like I mean, it's just it's something that unfortunately is a part of the sport.
Lucy Anders' hand.
Oh yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that I was going to be a hand model or anything, but like they weren't all bent and crooked.
Listen, that's your second fans only page, right? First is
first is armpits. Second is going to be maybe.
So listen, so we got some news to go over too. So it's great to have Mike here too, because I'm curious to see his point of view. So all right off the bat. So for everyone that's tuning in, this guy has a fight to win match coming up. He finally got on to Fight to Win.
No way! Congratulations.
Yeah. So funny enough, he's going up against the same person, and then he goes.
That I've gone up against multiple times.
Yeah,
and he's a good friend too, because going against Justin Brunetti he owns Key West or Fight Sports out of the in the Keys. It's not Key West. It's he just moved to Marathon. I think he's on Marathon, but he's a black belt under Cyborg, and we've competed multiple times. So we've been going back and forth over instant message saying, man, I wish we could have gotten other people, but we don't want to rock the boat. We're finally getting on the stage, so we're just gonna take what we can get.
What about you, Mike? You think you'd have we could get you on Fight to Win? Would you be down for it?
Oh, fuck yeah.
All
Fuck yeah.
We'll
But I will say this. Just let me get like at least 6 months of consistent training under, like, jokes aside, because like that's
it's a serious competition.
That's a serious thing.
Yeah.
And I want to respect myself enough to just, I'm not Paul Felder, I'm not going to take a fight on a week's notice.
Right.
That guy's got mad props to Paul for that.
There's no joke though. See, but at some point too, like, Paul Felder's been doing it his whole life. So
Sure.
that 1 week, you're not going to get anything extra. You're not going to learn anything extra, like,
Right.
with an extra 8 weeks of training. It's like,
Sure.
he's in shape, you're good to go. That's how you get those calls, man. Like, I mean, Sean's in shape.
Mhm.
He's been training on and off pretty consistently the last couple of like months, right?
Well, yeah, finally, I've gotten to a point where I can.
And that's always been like my thing. I changed that fight camp mentality out of my head, and it's always been like anywhere, anytime. That's
It's be ready to stay ready.
Yeah.
Or stay ready to be ready. That's the mentality I have my guys at my gym, and if I'm going to ask them to have that mentality, I need to have that mentality as well. So
would you have somebody that you'd want to go up specifically, Mike? Call that time. Let's go.
I'd actually like to go up against my buddy Marshall, Troy. He's a brown belt. I mean, but it would just be fun. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go for the big competitors, but at the same time, like, I feel like David and he's Goliath kind of thing. Like, even though he's shorter than me and in a higher rank, like, the thing is, like, I probably outweigh him by about $150 anyway. Like, I'm a bigger dude, but like, the thing with all these procedures and all this like physical pain is like, I don't look at anybody, man. I'll fight whoever. Like, I don't even care.
I love
like,
it. So
because I just love that challenge. Like, I don't care who you are. Mad respect and mad props to whoever. Like, dude, I went crazy before this. So, like, brass tacks, like, complete honesty, I was blowing up my Instagram to like everybody. I was like JT Torres, like Origin USA, like Gordon Ryan, like Jean-Jacques, like everybody, man. I was like, yo, I'm making my debut for the world on this podcast. This is crazy, right?
Well, JT is a good friend of mine, so I'm sure he heard it. I'll make sure to tag him.
He's good people. So, funny story. You mentioned Cyborg, Sean. Well, Cyborg's fiance Maggie started in Portland, Maine, under Jay Jack.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And, yeah. So, like, I never knew her when I lived there or anything, but like, as soon as I found out there was that like Maine connection, it's a small state. It's a physically a large state, but the population's relatively small. So, like, the community in Portland or in Maine relatively easily. So it's like, holy cow, to see her like, rep Maine and rep Jiu-Jitsu and Cyborg and that whole thing is pretty badass. I mean,
Maggie is a beast. I
haven't met her yet. She's real cool. Like, so shout out to Maggie and Cyborg.
Hold on. So now here's off to the next one. How much did you say you weighed again?
235.
So I got news for you.
Okay.
Somebody new just got their blue belt.
Oh, damn.
Did you hear about this, Sean?
No. Oh, wait. I think I have an idea. Is he an actor?
He is an actor.
And he's in
several good movies.
Yes.
Yo, Hardy.
Tom Hardy just got his blue belt, bro.
Tom Hardy. Hell yeah, Tom. Let's do it, man.
Tom Hardy.
Let's get it, Tom. Let's do it. Hell yeah.
If you put me back down to blue belt, saying like, listen, we're gonna bump you down to blue belt, give you Tom Hardy, let's fucking go.
I'd do it. So the We Defy Foundation's like mirrored program is called the reorganization in England, and I've talked to all those dudes, like Mark Ramrod. He's an amputee dude. He's a blue belt. Like, those cats, like that reorg stuff is huge, and mad respect to Tom Hardy for just.
They put out Tom Hardy put out like a gi with them too. I think it's called Giza. You got to look that up, Sean. It's a pretty dope gi.
Tom Hardy put out a gi.
He
Designed it.
co-signed it. Yeah, like
he did some
designed it.
artistic things that they were putting on the gi. Yeah.
it's pretty dope. I was actually looking at it today. I was thinking about picking it up. There's the only thing I don't like is the trim, because I guess the new style is having the rounded corners.
Mhm.
But yeah, no,
I like those rounded corners.
you and Tom Hardy, bro.
Yeah.
Listen.
You guys,
What's up?
you guys had John Milan on, right? Did you guys have John Milan on here? He's from Origin USA.
No, we had Brian. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So John Milan, his coworker, Brian's coworker, is a good buddy of mine. He actually kind of looks like Sean, beard and size and everything else. He's a brown belt, but like I don't have any sponsorships or anything, but like hands down, like I'm gonna plug Origin USA, like
Oh, dude,
crazy, man.
I love
They're
Origin.
the best.
I plug them all the time. Like the shout out to Brian. Like Brian is super.
Shout out to John and Pete and all those guys.
Yeah, they're repping USA. They got my respect. They'll always get my support for sure.
So I have a tattoo of Paul Bunyan on my ribs,
Do you?
and he's wearing a Origin gi.
Nice. What'd you do?
Yeah, true story.
Tag them.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely do that. I just I'm not going to get naked on
Please don't.
public TV, so that's not going to happen. But no, it's no, I really believe in those guys. So funny story, like Origin's factory is 20 minutes from my mom's best friend's house growing up. So like Farmington, Maine was literally like 20 minutes 20 minutes west on Route 2, and boom, I've driven past that factory. And so
that's awesome.
2017, I was back home. My dad was fighting some cancer, and he's good to go now. But he was living in that area of southern Maine at the time, and I took 2 weeks off of work out here and went out and just went over to Origin and talked to Brian. Actually, I was like, "Hey man, I want to do a tour," and Pete and this and that. So anyway, it all comes back to Origin, tattooing, and jiu-jitsu. So John Milan's dad went to Lakewood High School, which is a town I used to live in just south of me, about 20 minutes.
Oh, nice.
So in Colorado. So
that's cool, man. Yeah, Origin is good people, man, and they put out some solid products. I wish I could buy their boots. They got $300 boots, but I ain't got money for boots. But I would definitely pick them up.
I don't wear boots. It's either flip flops
or boots for you. I know.
No, it's either skateboard shoes. Actually, you know what though? I did buy those. So those minimalist shoes, the Wittens on Amazon, they're $35. They are awesome to work out in.
Are you talking about the finger toe
No,
shoes?
they look like the finger or the toe shoes, but they are not.
Okay.
They don't. I find that whole idea of putting my toes into an individual slots as something weird, so I would never buy those.
You ever tried those shoes?
No, it freaks me out.
I bought them I bought them years and years ago. They're not bad. Like they're made for running. A little bit of bullshit, but yeah, they're awkward. They weren't too bad. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Gordon Ryan semi called out Rafael Lovato Jr. It was
semi.
He very respectfully called out Lovato Jr., saying that because Flow Grappling recently put out the top, or I guess they're looking for the GOAT American grappler, and Lovato's number one, Gordon's ranked number two. He's like, yeah, Lovato has been focusing on MMA and gi, but if he ever decides to come back to no gi, I would love to have my shot at him. And Lovato quickly replied, like, I accept your respectful challenge. Like, let's do it. Bro. Rafael Lovato Jr. against Gordon Ryan. What do you think?
Oh my God.
Well, I know this. I know Cyborg beat Lovato Jr. at Substars
after like a 45 minute match. And it went down to points. But it's like first one to get a point wins.
I'd have to go with Gordon because he's proven. I mean, no disrespect to Lovato Jr., man, he's one of the greatest ever, period. But you know, Lovato Jr. left for MMA, whereas Gordon has proven since day one, like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, you know, Gordon's interesting because he's like the nicest guy in the world, but he's a majestically beautiful, like, shit talker. like, have you ever just fucking looked at his Instagram or his
Yeah.
whatever else? It's like, I don't have enough hours in the day to do what he does, but like he's proven like, hey, I'm going to be just grappling, and I'm going to make it my money maker, and he's done it.
Listen, he is a very successful man. He's super.
I'm not taking away from Lovato,
Oh,
but,
no,
believe
by
me,
no means.
okay.
No, by no means. Lovato is a legend. I mean, he's a living legend of the sport, and he's still got it for sure.
Nicest
No
dude,
joke.
man.
Yeah, and
well, here's the thing. You know how there is Gordon wasn't disrespectful to him.
Yeah,
right.
Gordon went ahead and did it the respectful way. So it's
Sure.
there's obviously Lovato has earned that respect, especially from the guy. And again, I fully believe that Gordon Ryan is the top grappler on the planet.
Oh yeah.
You can't deny it.
Mm.
So he doesn't have to be respectful to anybody.
So switching, to talk about switching to MMA. Buchecha's first MMA fight opponent has been announced. Have you seen this?
Yes. No, I haven't. I mean, I saw the Buchecha jump to one. I think it is one Fight Sports or whatever.
Yeah. But so check this out. So the guy that gave him is Umar Kane. Okay. And he's a Senegalese wrestler, MMA fighter. He's 1-0. He's only had one fight. And to be fair, the guy he fought was absolute garbage, and had shitty striking, a little bit of jiu-jitsu. Sure. But the guy is so strong. He was caught in a Kimura once, got out. The second time the guy got him in a Kimura, he literally stood up and slammed him while he was getting Kimura. Like, if you look at the photos, this guy is an absolute beast. So striking wise, I think they're on the same level. I'm hoping.
I don't know. I've seen Buchecha. His striking is not as.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. This guy's the Omar Kane's striking is absolute garbage.
Like, yeah.
It's shit. It's absolute shit. I'm sorry. I don't care if he could wrestle the shit out of me. Like, the guy's like striking is absolute garbage. Now I haven't.
But he knocked that dude silly when he connected because he's strong as shit.
Yeah, right. You're 275 pounds of pure masculine, like muscle, like genetically, like just descendant of like
freak strength. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy is just a beautiful beast of a man there. But I mean, like, if your striking sucks, you're gonna connect. I mean, that's anybody, you know.
Sure.
So it's I haven't seen how much Buchecha's striking has improved. I know it's gotten a little better somehow, but that's gonna be a fight to watch. And like, check out the Instagram. I posted the photo of the guy. It should still be up, but it's pretty nutty. So let's see. Let's take pre-information bets or wagers, not money. Who do you think is going to win that match?
Buchecha. Easy.
Buchecha is going to win that match.
You go for Buchecha? Buchecha.
What comes to mind is Francis Ngannou when he came into the UFC.
Right.
There was all this hype of, he's a freak strength athlete and this and that, which there's no doubt. But I mean, Alistair and Stipe and all these big time opponents. I mean,
he did knock the shit out of it, of Alistair Overeem.
Sure.
Ngannou, like he took his soul out temporarily.
For sure. But then Stipe beat him. And then he disappeared for a while and then came back. Mad respect to both of those guys. I mean, Stipe is one of my favorites, like in heavyweight anyway.
Yeah, no, it should be good. So it should be a pretty dope fight.
Sure.
Mike, I was thinking, we have people listening, obviously from all walks of life. If you could, and I've spoken to different, I guess you say like Paralympic or para athletes.
Sure.
Obviously through the podcast, like Instagram channel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What would your piece of advice be to, whether it's to like the younger guys or like girls that are looking to start like training jiu-jitsu or martial arts, something like that, or even just from your experience of, what you went through, what would your advice be to them?
That's a deep question. I would say use whatever pain that you felt as fuel, and realize you're stronger. You're a superhero, and you just don't know it yet. Use whatever hardship you have as fuel for positivity. I mean, I haven't even gotten into the medical side of it, man. I've had 30 procedures, like damn near 10 years of literally like just, oh man, in 5 weeks time, 6 weeks time, I got to go back into the knife, back into the knife, back into the knife. Like that physical pain aside, you know what that does to your mind? It fucks you up. But I would tell these young people, old people, whomever, impairments, just do something that you love. And I hope that it has some hardship, some difficulty to it. Find something that's going to evolve with the challenge, but it's going to like keep you intrigued, keep you interested. Like we have sort of a sick sense of humor in this community, right? But like, you know, the first thing I do when I walk down the street, if I see somebody with cauliflower ears, male or female, I'm going up to them and like shaking their hand and be like, hey, how are you? But like to people who don't do what we do, they're like, what's wrong with you? Like that, look at his ears. You know what I mean? Like but it's a badge of honor and courage. And it's like the most obvious example of they've been through what we've been through or what we are going through. And that's like a badge of pride, I should say. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
that's a great answer to that question.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, all competition, rivalries, whatever, like aside, sure, like at the end of the day, I think deep down we all know that we're in a niche club, in a niche group of people that are either stupid enough or crazy enough to sit there and put ourselves through a certain amount of pain and achieve a different type of, you know, some get some kind of mental clarity, like physical clarity out of it. We're willing to test out a certain part that a lot of people can't understand unless you know, usually the first boundary people have to deal with is the proximity factor. The fact that you're rubbing up against somebody else sweaty, you smell like breath, or you smell like whether or not they had a shower or something. And that automatically is the biggest hurdle for the beginning for everybody. And then you get into the aspect of, like Sean said, it's anytime you tap, that is you acknowledging the fact that if you had not tapped, you'd be dead. If this had been a real life situation, you'd be dead. And you're conceding that fact. That's a huge ego crush. That's a mind fuck. And there's a lot of people that might be even black belts that still haven't gotten over that hurdle.
But the thing is like when you, I'm going to just make a blanket statement here, but when you're already fucked up physically, you don't have an ego when you step on the mat.
Yeah.
The only thing you have is panic from the close proximity, from the, holy crap, I don't know a goddamn thing. I'm getting choked. I'm getting pretzeled. Like what is going on? But yeah, like that's something I would impart to people, kids. One of my dreams down the road is like, I want to take kids with impairments or take kids that were bullied or whatever, and just like show them the beauty that is jiu-jitsu, but also empower them to make them realize that if you're taught correctly by the right team of people, you can take any giant down you want to.
Have you ever met?
I'm saying this is a blue belt, man. Like
no. Listen, but yeah. I see you might be a blue belt technically in jiu-jitsu, but in dealing with the stuff that you have to deal with in life up to this point, you're a black belt. There's things that you are, you know, it's everyday life for you that I can't even possibly fathom or even think that I could mentally deal with that. It's easy to say like, oh yeah, well I could deal with this. No, man, like you got 35 years on me. 33 years on me on like the fact that it's like, this is your everyday life. So and for me, again, the belt doesn't mean shit to me because the challenges that you have to deal with, the mentality of it is what interests me more than whatever the fuck you know about jiu-jitsu. Whether you know how to do an omoplata perfect or not, I don't really give a shit. Like no disrespect, but it's really the fact that your mentality of what it takes you to even get onto the mat is what I'm interested in, because that's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is just showing up.
Dude, I've had people in the special operations community, and you know, I've had people like Dean Lister, and so long story short, one of Dean Lister's black belts is my boss at work, and like to see people at the top of the food chain, both in the military, police, emergency responder community, it's like tell me I'm a badass, like to have something like of Dean's caliber to say like, hey man, you're an inspiration, or like you guys even like, damn, like I'm just a guy trying to be a badass, but it's like a weird identity crisis because I'm a little old blue belt, but I'm garnering the respect of you guys and like, you know, the top of the food chain in jiu-jitsu and in life and stuff. It's humbling, you know. I if I can inspire somebody to do this sport every day, or get up and go challenge themselves, then cool, you know. But I don't do this to inspire. If I'm an inspiration as a result of my actions, awesome, that's great. But I didn't get into the sport to I'm just me living my life.
Yeah. No,
impairment or not.
Yeah, no, man. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time and reaching out to us and wanting to spread the message. I think it's one of those things that, you know, there's so many different personalities, and like I said, like everyone's in their own universe. Like everyone lives their own storyline. So to be able to hear something that's not commonly spoken about as far as, you know, what people have to deal with, for me, that's huge. I think there's, especially with everything that's going on now, I think it's very easy to forget the challenges that everybody have to deal with anyway before all this stuff. There's people that have way more challenges than even you know. So it's like it helps put things into perspective, you know. And to sit there and anytime someone says like, oh man, my life is so difficult, like, is it really that fucking difficult? Because I know somebody that's got to deal with way more shit by the time they have to go get their coffee than you do your entire week, you know.
Did I see something that you posted recently that one of your guys' coaches is working with Kamaru Usman and Justin Gagey?
Yeah, that's my coach. It's Professor George Santiago.
Okay, so funny story. Gagey and Trevor Whitman are like just down the road from me, like 10, 20 minutes. And I'm actually I'm on a waiting list, but we're going to get together, and they're going to make me 2 different glove mitt type things to help me.
Oh yeah, he makes those. I've heard Trevor Whitman makes boxing gloves. Like they just decided to start it one day.
Yeah, and I use a neck trainer to train my neck. It's the Neck Flex Pro. I've got, and then there's something called a Grapito. It looks like just a metal torpedo that you twist. That's a great product to help grip.
And Neil Millinson like touts it all the time.
Yeah, Neil's my boy, man. I met him. So one of my former coaches, Scott Miller, is a black belt locally at Factory X, where Anthony Smith trains when he's doing a fight. But I met Neil, and he has some sort of condition where one of his eyes is blind or something like that, but an autoimmune disease, if I recall. But he and I are homies because of this impairment world. Like he, you know, to have a guy of his caliber to work with like Randy Couture and Chael Sonnen and you name it. I mean, to have a guy of the highest level be like, hey man, you're an inspiration. Like you keep me going. Like that's so humbling. If you've ever seen Neil face to face, the guy's like 6'5", like 280, but looks like
he used to train with us, or we used to train with him at the gym. He trained the fighters at the Black Zillions, so we'd have like I'd get to watch him like coach all the time and stuff like that. Dude's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's a genuine human being, man.
And he's just like
total gun nut.
Yeah, well that too, but I don't mean to get a little bit down here, but you know, a lot of this stuff is emotionally challenging. Like I have weeks where I'm just, you know, we are our own worst enemy, I find at times. Like that, and that's something I'm actually still trying to learn. I don't know if you guys could impart some wisdom here, but you know, when I've consistently trained, or even when I'm not, like I'm super happy and great no matter how badly I've been beat up on the mat. But I have had that difficulty of transitioning that wonderful empowerment feeling from the mat or from the gym to life at times. And this 2020 has just kicked me in the teeth, man. When you have like 2 breaks of the same finger in 14 months, and then you're not training at all, like you've left your community, you've lost the training regimen, the focus, the goal of the day, the week, whatever. Like I lost my identity once that re-injury happened, and it, I'm slowly, it's going to be a new year and we're going to crush it. But like, have you guys had challenges like that, like throughout life, where you have injury or financial ruin or something that just kicks you in the teeth, and you're like, how is it I can go to the mat and be super happy and excited and on top of the world, but as soon as I leave or before I get there, it's a totally different totally different person.
I'll let Sean go first.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I over a couple years ago, I had a very successful business, and it just through regulation, it just, and having to deal with the government, it all just dried up in a matter of like weeks.
Yeah.
Our company went from making anywhere between 30 and 90 grand a month to making zero. And we became persona non grata, and dealing with that was not easy.
Sure.
But the thing is I had the gym for, I had to teach my classes, and I was always in a good mood because I always had jiu-jitsu in my life. So I realized how hard it is not having jiu-jitsu in your life. And
sure,
we all deal with it. That's why we all train hurt. There's a problem with jiu-jitsu guys. Sure. Is what most of us need is a good month off.
Sure.
Most of us need a solid month, maybe more, maybe sometimes up to 3 months.
Right.
But you'll be hard pressed to find a jiu-jitsu guy that'll take that much time off, because they don't want to stay away from something that gives them so much happiness.
Sure.
One of my former students moved to Inglewood, Colorado, and he's up there now. He trains, I forget what school it is.
What's his name?
His name is Colin Bradley.
Okay. Yeah, he went through a lot. He was a big dude.
Yeah, he lost a lot of weight at one, like but he went through this at his school. He's with his school is tied with Elevation Fight Team.
Okay, yeah.
So he did what a lot of people did. He matted his garage up and had a few key training partners come over and train in his garage, and and that's how he stayed sane over this 9-month experience we're going through.
Yeah, for me, like, there's been plenty of times where I had to take like a lot of time off of jiu-jitsu because of injuries. And whether like even now, like I have my rib was cracked the last month and a half because I just trained 10 minutes with Rumble Johnson. Like I tried to train, I'd go and train like light here and there, but I knew that I needed to take the time off. Like, and the problem is that jiu-jitsu is addicting, and there's an addiction that it comes in from like different aspect of it. It's a physical thing, it's a mental thing, but when you've gone through so much emotional or physical issues, and then you finally find that click where you find that connection where it's like, oh, these are my people. This is the place that, even regardless of what's going on with me or, whatever's happening in this physical form or mentally, like I feel at home here, like I'm accepted here. That's a different addiction to have. And it's one of those things that, as much as we love jiu-jitsu, we got to understand jiu-jitsu isn't who I am. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with depression a lot in my life because coming here, like from another country, didn't speak the language. I didn't have friends all throughout middle school. And
where were you from, if I may ask?
Italy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I moved here from Italy when I was 7. And we moved to Colorado. Funny enough, we moved to Denver, and from Denver down to here, but I didn't speak the language. I didn't speak the language for like a year. It took me a while. And I never had any friends. I wasn't allowed to, man, my parents wouldn't even allow me to watch The Simpsons. I wasn't allowed to play video games. I wasn't allowed to go outside. You know, there's tons of stuff that and it wasn't my parents being overbearing, but it was just, they were being super overprotective of everything that was going on. So that fucked me up a lot in life. It took me a long time to build social skills, to build, like, I wasn't even allowed to play sports. Like, I had a heart murmur for my entire life. Like, even now, I technically shouldn't be doing any of the stuff that I'm doing, because like it never fully closed. And I had a brother that died before I was born because of the same thing. So for me, like every once in a while, maybe every few months, I'll go into like a deep depression and stuff like that. And I've dealt with, at one point in my life, I was depressed for an entire year. Like nobody knew where I was at. Every weekend I would leave. Like no one would know where I was going. I would just disappear. And I learned something really honest and hard, that no matter what it is that you're going through, it doesn't matter how low you feel, how depressed you are, the world doesn't give a shit. The world is going to keep on turning. The world is going to keep on moving, regardless of whether you're happy, sad, whatever. No one gives a fuck. Your friends are going to care about you, but the world isn't going to stop because you're not feeling good.
Right.
So you can have your cry, you can have your down day, like, you know, you get your 5 minutes, whatever it is, but it's
make it just that day.
It's not even
just those 5 minutes.
It's not even making that day. Accept the feelings, understand why you're feeling that way. Look at it. Why is it doing this? Why is it doing that? Does me feeling this way change absolutely anything? Fucking no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Then,
Right.
like, I had to understand what was going on. And then you come up to I heard this great phrase, and it's chop wood, carry water. Chop wood, carry water. Doesn't matter whatever the fuck is going on. If you have a goal, you're going to keep going. Like when I was trying to get into the music industry, no friends. I kept working. I studied. I trained. I did whatever. I just kept going and going and going and going. Like, and you don't see it. You don't see the footsteps that you're planting. You're just putting it down. You're going to get it and go put it down. And then one day you start working your way out of it. Start working right out of it. That's why I say the hardest part is showing up. The hardest part is showing up. So I can't give you any advice because you have a different experience than me. All I can tell you is it's there. It's there. It sucks. It sucks. If you can't train for a couple of days, it is what it is, you know, like, but you can still train by studying. I train more by getting to go and film these guys like JT, Gordon, and just sitting there. I learned more about jiu-jitsu for the year that I sat there and did filming every weekend than I did like going to train 4 hours a night for a year. I just did. You study, but the depression that kicks in because we all have different like difficulties that we have to deal with. Deshaun knows how many times like I'll be going to train for 3 months straight, no problem. I want to get ready for a tournament, and it's always something comes up the last month. Shit happens. I get injured. I get into a car accident. I this, that, and the other. Like, man, you go through. Like, I can make the decision to go train and go compete. It is. I could do it. I want to just take it easier on myself. But the fact that you mentally have to sit there and just show up. Just show up. The hardest part is just show up. It doesn't matter. You feel sad? Fucking show up. You're sore? Show up. Do what you can that day. Like, you got hurt? That's cool. You know what? Like, I would show up with like a cast. When I broke this hand, I'd show up with a cast. Guess what? I'm not using it. Just show up. Do what you can. Do the drills. Leave the rolling for later. But man, just fucking show up, because
you just by the way, you just reminded me of Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I can't pay the rent. Fuck you, pay me. I can't.
Right. No, the reason I even put that out there is because, like, you guys are interviewing me and wanting to get to know me, but like, I figured, you know what, like, this is a safe enough community of jiu-jitsu and life that, like, it's good to know that things like routine, like, I have a dog and a cat. I don't have children. And when I was at, you know, the lowest of the low, like, what I looked forward to was getting up and feeding the dog in the morning, or you know, taking the dog out at night. And I still do, you know, and like, it's funny how simple activities like that can really, like, kind of knock you back into a positive mindset. Like, hey, I may not be all there for me right now, but I have to take care of the dog. I got to take care of the cat.
And you know what's funny?
I got to do the laundry, whatever.
I learned that lesson from my dog, because when I went through like a really, really big depression, and like I said, it was hands down the darkest time I've ever been in my life. And it wasn't that long ago, but every time that I would come home, my dog didn't care. My dog didn't care. It didn't care. She would always say hi to me. Even if you go and you yell at her because she peed like in the back hall or something like that, she still comes back 10 minutes later. She's happy. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them. I watched the dog one day, and this was the saddest thing ever. There was a man in a wheelchair, but you could tell like he had some issues, and he had a dog that he did not care for. The dog had a broken leg. The dog had a broken leg, and like if this was its paw, the leg was broken here, and the dog was still walking on that stub of broken bone. Didn't complain. It wasn't yelping. It's just like, I got to keep moving forward.
Yep.
They don't have that quit. They don't have that quit. So it's like, man, if we learn anything from this year, is that at any point in time, regardless of how you fucking feel, this can all go. This can all go. Nothing is promised. The sun isn't going to rise tomorrow just because you want it to. It might not. You don't fucking know if we're going to get hit by a fucking comet. So why would you stop it? Just because you're sad, because you feel something chemically inside you that makes you feel sad, whether you lost a good friend or this. No, man, just show up, because tomorrow is not promised to you. You're not going to have it.
Part of the physical surgeries I've endured is messed up toes through cerebral palsy, and they'll like curl on each other, and that causes like hot spots and calluses and things. And like people would say like, man, I'd go to the clinic and I get taped up or bandaged or whatever. They're like, man, this is really bad. Like I'm surprised you're not complaining. I'm like, I put up and shut up, man. You got to get up, you got to go to work, you got to do your thing, you got to come home. Like, the biggest thing I would also tell people with impairments is like, learn to put some armor on sometimes, emotionally, being like, you've got to get through this. Like you're saying, you know what I mean? Like nobody gives a shit about whatever sadness you have or whatever physical pain you have, but you need to just put that in the back of your mind. And like, that's like David Goggins, as it comes to mind when I'm talking about this. Like the guy's been through crazy physical pain, and people are like, how do you do that? He's like, I just fucking go, man. Like he's as bare bones and basic to it. You know what I mean? It's like, he just does it. Like, oh, I'm going to lose 150 pounds. All right. But you have to flip that switch. And I think that's what jiu-jitsu teaches us, despite all the shit going on in our lives and in yours and wherever in the world. Like when you're just in the fight, literally, when you're trying not to get choked out for your life, you don't have time to worry about how sad you are or the bills or the relationships that's going to hell or whatever it is.
You can deal with it after. Right now, you got to deal with the now. So it's like 100%. That's what I can't give you the advice. I can tell you from my experience, but at the end of the day, the only thing that we have in common is nobody gives a shit. Like we care because we're friends. I care that you're doing well, that I care that you keep on training, for sure.
Absolutely.
We have a different brotherhood because of what we have in here as jiu-jitsu, and I care about you as a human being.
Sure.
But
absolutely.
Not everybody sit there and stop. Like some people wouldn't even bother to spit on you if you were on fire.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I going
to that would just be a waste of time, though. I mean,
sure.
You'd have to pee on them if you wanted to get any of the flames out. I mean, if you want, spitting isn't going to give you a lot of coverage on somebody on fire. Just
Oh shit! I just realized what time it was too, man.
Oh damn.
Listen, Mike.
Yeah.
I really, from the bottom of my heart, I really thank you for reaching out to us and wanting to be on the podcast. And if there's any message that you want to send out to the people, like the floor is open, man. I'd love to hear like what you have.
I'd say a couple things. One, get training. Just start. Just do something. I don't care if it's jiu-jitsu. I don't care, if you have an impairment or not. Just do something that betters you. As my buddy Alan says, 1%, get 1% better every single day, and prove them wrong. For all the people with impairments and disabilities and shit's really kicked you in life, like get up and prove them wrong. Like don't stop. We're, like you said earlier, we don't know if this is like, I could die in 10 minutes. Like, I don't know. I mean, you have to make every minute that you're awake and above ground, make it a good day. Do the best you can, whatever it is. Brush your teeth the best you can, wash your car the best you can, fold your clothes, do the laundry. Like, just try to live your life to the max every single moment you have. That's what I would say.
That's awesome, man. No, 100%. Amen to that, bro.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, again, thank you very much for being on here. It was a blast, man. It'll definitely. I know
Thank you guys for having me.
Schedule like you said. So hopefully we'll get to do this again real soon. And I'm curious to hear when you get to start training again and stuff like that.
Yeah. And if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it's pluto.mike. It's real simple.
Yeah, we'll tag. Make sure you guys check out the description of the podcast, whether it's on YouTube or iTunes, Spotify, whatever. We'll have Mike's information on there as well, so you guys can always check him out on there and give him a follow. Holler at your boy. Let him know what's up. All right, brother. Well, we'll let you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
And I'll catch you on. I'll shoot you a message later on, brother.
All right, guys. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Lexus.
Yeah, Mike.
Have a good night, brother.
You too. Bye-bye.
Night.
Yeah.
I got deep really good, man. That's something that's funny that we always talk about. We never really get a chance to dig in deep with other people's like point of views. It's easy to have, just people that we train with or people that we know that are world champions and stuff. Like, obviously there's challenges to that, but to speak to someone with a completely different point of view that has some challenges just off the mat and have to bring them onto the mat, that's pretty.
Well, it makes you realize that everybody's going through their own struggles, their own battles, and we should keep that in mind no matter what.
Yeah.
And we don't know. Mike's may be visual, but
there's a ton there's a ton of like emotional stuff in the background, mental, that you'll never ever see.
You'll never know. So it's like we should always treat people with that same respect. Is, look, you could be going through something, so I'm not going to, take out my aggression or my anger on you. It's,
that's always like my biggest pet peeve, when people like are having a shitty day and they take it out on somebody else and go, I'm sorry, just having a shitty day. I don't give a fuck. Doesn't give you the right to take it out on me. Keep that in mind. I might be having a shit day too. We're here together in this shitty situation. Like,
very rarely will anybody know if I had a shit day.
Well, evidently that guy whose car you pounded on.
Oh, dude, sat through two revolutions of a red light on a turn lane.
Oh, it was on the turn lane. I was going to ask, how come you didn't just go around him?
We were in a turn lane, and I'm in downtown Delray. I wasn't going to take that chance.
That's true. Smart. Yeah, there's too many cops down there. So what did they say when you knocked on the window? Were they on the phone?
Dude was like this. He was like, whack, whack, whack. There is a red light now. It was green. You missed it twice. Pay attention. Walked away. And you know me, dude.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If we didn't have the podcast, like if I didn't have something to do, I would have been fine. But like, I was rushing. I had my dog and I smelled poo, and it really wasn't poo. It was just a fart. So like
the other day, I was like, I went to the pet her. I'm like, hey, and then I just see her like, she's just like pointing from me, like, you bitch.
Yeah. So like, I was just like, oh, what the hell?
You got to be careful with that shit, man. Like, for all you know, that person had a gun, and the second you walked up, you would have freaked out and blasted you.
I had mine.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have a faster reaction time. They're bored to pull the nice man. Man. So yeah, you got your fight to win coming up.
Yep.
Jay-Z is gonna corner you. That's awesome. So technically, I'm coming in as your coach, even though I'm not gonna be coaching you. We're gonna be.
You can be my guest. You'll be my guest. It's one coach and one guest. You can be my guest.
I'll be your hype man.
Be our guest. Be our guest.
$5 if you know who plays that character.
Lumiere?
Yeah.
I have no idea who plays
Lenny
Lumiere.
Briscoe from Law and Order did the voice for Lumiere.
Who?
The guy that played Lenny Briscoe.
I don't know who that was.
Watch Law and Order?
Yeah, but I wouldn't know him by name.
I don't know his like actual actor, like his actual name. I just know his show name.
No, but I don't know who he was on the show is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll send you a photo. He was the man. He died only a few years ago. So Sean's got a fight to win match with Justin. What's Justin's last name? I forget.
Brunette
With Justin Brunette. January 16th.
January 16th. A lot of guys on that 16th. Me, Jay-Z, Calvin got on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Calvin got on. Puga. Just a lot of local guys are getting on.
Where's he gonna be at?
Miami, I'm off of Brickell somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yep.
We got to go all the way down to Brickell to watch your fat ass fucking roll.
Well, Calvin too. Jay-Z.
I've watched Jay-Z plenty of times. Jay-Z doesn't need me at all. You need me. Jay-Z doesn't need me.
I don't need nobody.
You need me.
I need you to document it so we got content for this channel.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about what happened at Masters.
Yeah, we'll say that for next week.
It's a little late there, a little long in the tooth today.
What's that? Well, yeah, I am a little. You got to realize my days start early.
Like you're getting like smoker eyes. You're like, hey.
Yeah, they keep drying out on me. I'm like,
all right, man. Well, listen, folks, this is the last episode of 2020.
Thank God.
So much for all the support this year. I know Sean will reiterate this message with me. We are extremely thankful for every single one of you who have supported the podcast even before 2020. It's been tough times all around, some tougher for some than others. But we just hope that somewhere along the line, we were able to help make you smile, laugh, enjoy things a little bit more, even if it's at our expense. We just want to sit there and bring some positivity to the world, to jiu-jitsu, to individuals. That's it. That's really what it comes down to. So thank you very much for all your support this year. We got a lot of fun stuff planned for 2021. So let's end the year with a cheers. Let's grab a drink. I got mine.
I don't got nothing.
That's all right. Grab your water. You got water?
I don't have water. I haven't. Well, oh wait, there's a little bit of water in here.
Good enough. That's good enough, man. So I got my peanut butter whiskey.
Peanut butter. What the hell?
You had this yet?
No.
Dude, you have to have this. It's peanut butter whiskey. I got
a couple bottles of mead.
Yeah, I got that too. You gotta love some mead. So listen. Here's to your health. Here's to my co-host here. Cheers. Cheers. Can you give me a cheers? Can you ching ching? Can you ching ching? Dude, come on, short arms, switch hands. Other side. Use your left hand. Cheers. Come on, cheers. There you go. Cheers.
See, we're doing it on the same side on mine, so it's like.
Okay, we'll do it on the other one. Like I think it's just the way you are here. All right. So cheers to you guys. Here's to this year being over with and a new one coming through. And we look forward to partying on with you. So party on, Wayne.
Party on, Garth.
Cheers.
Here's to you. Sucking my.
Oh, that's good. So with that being said, don't forget to follow Jiu-Jitsu Radio on Instagram. Follow Sean at Gorilla Boy BJJ. You can follow me at Sonder Marketing. Check out jiu-jitsuradio.com. And as always, please check out our awesome sponsors, Choke Aloha, Giraffe Choke, and Jiu-Jitsu Soap Co. Use the promo codes in the description below if you're watching us on YouTube or in the podcast description to get your discounts on some of the best gear in jiu-jitsu, without a doubt. Some of the best soap in general. You don't even need to go to the store at Jiu-Jitsu Soap Co. And you always got to rock my Giraffe Choke gear. So thank you so much to all of our sponsors, to all of you, and we'll catch you guys in 2021.